Comic art fans, how are we all doing tonight? I hope you've had a great day. Last night's amateur dueling dealer show was a lot of fun. For those of you who didn't tune into it, I see that somebody's already, I think it was Dino, congratulating my daughter on her first art pickup. That was pretty cool. Matt was pretty pleased about that. He and I emailed a bunch afterwards, and we did get confirmation today that Emma is going to be able to go to Ringling for a couple weeks this summer to study animation and like some game design stuff that she really wanted to do. And as Matt said, Ringling was the school for her to go to. So we're really excited about all that. And so welcome everybody to the show. As Ruben said, everybody, like, hit the likes, everybody. Getting the start here early. If Nick's not here, we need somebody to lead the charge. So I appreciate that, Ruben. And great to see everybody, Man, Mr. Rejek, you're always here early. Thank you. I appreciate that. You get everything rolling before anyone else, and it means a great deal to me to have your support, cheering everybody on and moving the show forward every single show that we have. So, West and Ron, good to see you all as well, and Mr. Easy Go Lucky. So, hey, why don't we? I've got my guest Eric Wenger in the green room tonight, and I don't want to keep him waiting, but again. Ron, see, there you go. Thank you, Ron, for that super chat. I appreciate that. Emma was before we even get started, Emma was so happy. She was like, my gosh, look at all those people helped put some money towards her art purchase from Matt. She was very pleased, and we talked after the show, and I kind of, she's not hip to everything that goes on here, so she doesn't really understand all the support that you guys have shown me and everybody else on the channel. So I had to explain to her, because she didn't understand why were people sending that in, and I let her know, you're a young collector, and we're all about encouraging new collectors in the hobby. And I hope one day she will also be a someone who's creating artwork that we're all appreciating and collecting one day as well, or at least appreciating through animation and game designs, things that she's really excited about. But Scott just said the behind the scenes team is appreciated. Emma has pretty much done all of the slides for every Dueling Dealers and Amateur Dueling Dealers episode, primarily probably for like the last 9 months. I kind of shifted the responsibilities around. My other daughter, Gwen, helps out from time to time, but by and large, Emma does the most of the work, because Gwen's, now that she's in college, she gets bogged down in work sometimes. So Emma, who used to maybe split that work, ends up doing both Duelers art lists and stuff. So she's become very familiar with a lot of the creators out there. So very happy that she got her first artwork. So again, now let me bring Eric into tonight's chat. Good evening, Eric. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing quite well. How about yourself?
Fantastic as always. We had a very busy day. I'm trying to move a few things along with CAF. I've been talking with a few people about helping me with some, because we're looking at doing a redesign and a few other things. So there's wheels are in motion, at least, that I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get it done, whom I'm going to work with to get it done. And I've got a lot of help out there. I mean, you're a designer as well, so you know all about. And I shouldn't be telling people what you do without having you tell them what you do. But design projects like a site like CAF are really difficult. And so when you look at how are we going to get this done? I mean, there's a lot of moving parts. I really need like somebody who's going to be like my creative director, and then somebody who's going to be in the trenches with me doing the code, and then having several other people who are going to test the UI and make sure it really is up to snuff and works as expected. So I'm going to approach this slowly, but I hope that within about a 30 to 45 day window, I'll be starting that big project of finally redesigning CAF, making it mobile friendly for everybody.
Well, I have to mention too, I mean, I feel like you kind of set me up for this, but I actually am a UX manager, and I lead a UX and web team. And I would be more than happy. You've given so much to the community. You continue to give so much to the community. I'd be more than happy to offer my services and helping you out in any way, shape, or form that you'd like. But what you're talking about is kind of what we do, kind of what I do day to day. So I'm very familiar with the amount of work that you have.
Yeah, Scott Wingo just said you're hired. But of course, I would love to have your advice and looking over our shoulder. I know that whenever we get this thing started, we'll be working in a big test environment and going really slowly. But there's a lot of room for improvement on the overall CAF layout. And as Dino says, it really would be CAF 2.0, because it's we've been in this at this level, in this format, this design for probably 7 years now, and so we really haven't moved past that. I wish it would have been about 5 years ago. We might have had the mobile part of that already incorporated into it, but when we did it, mobile was still not really needed. And man, I wish we had done it at a different time. But yeah, exactly. Having your opinion, it would be. I mean, trust me, it would be really, really beneficial. JC Padilla has offered to help me. I've had other, Ilya has offered to help me. She does web design. So I think we're going to be able to form a really good core group of people who are graphic designers, UX designers, and who can help me make sure that, I don't drop the ball when we do this project, because it's important. I don't want to get it wrong. All right. Yes. And as everybody's saying, can't wait to see the new logo. Mikhail has never liked that Comic Art Fans logo. So he's offered to redo it numerous times. But all right, let's not talk about CAF anymore, though. Let's not do that. But let's talk about you, Eric. So first and foremost, I mean, even before we do the origin, so you've been in graphic design for quite some time. I mean, what's your background work-wise?
Yeah. So I'm old, okay? And when I was going to school, there wasn't web design degrees, let alone UX degrees. And I went in and I was I actually was a BA of illustration. And so I'm a classically trained illustrator. And I think, like a lot of people here, I started with collecting comics and had aspirations of being a comic book artist. And spent a lot of time working on that, spent a lot of time, trying to get that going and everything. And, lo and behold, it wasn't in the cards, and the talent's not quite there. And I mean, and you look at all of the talent that's out there, and it's completely understandable. I mean, they've got to go at the very top. But from there, I went ahead and I kept moving forward, kept art always being a part of what I was doing. Pursued design, got into web design, that moved into the UX genre, and that's where I've been staying, and I've been there for the last 2 decades. But it's always been connected to art. It's always been about design. It's always been, I mean, that's always been something that has really kind of grounded me and brought me back.
Well, that's we've talked about that a lot. I mean, everybody seems to have some art background, and if you're an art collector, you've got some creative streak in either your work history, your family history, and it's unique to our hobby for sure. So how many years have you been doing UX design? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, so well, I've been doing UX before it was even called UX. Back when people were talking about blue lines and figuring out that piece, and really starting to do some of the pieces in terms of wireframing prior to it being a thing. And so I've been doing that for a little bit over 2 decades. And working in that. And I've done some of the agency stuff. I've done Fortune 500. One of my little claim to fame, like fun little facts about me, is yes, I and one other designer were the people who did the original Britney Spears website. Yes, it is true. We did do that. The questions that follow up with that is no, we did not get the chance to meet her. And no, she was not famous at the time. So it was back in the era when every single website had a flash intro. We went ahead and we did the flash intro, and it was basically just a brochure website. But that was one of the fun little projects that I've done in my past.
Well, I've done a lot of website design myself, but I have no claims to fame whatsoever. I never touched any celebrity's website at any time. Mostly, I worked in a lot of trade industries when I got started. I worked for a publisher who was in like the landscape contractor. So I did a lot of work with, lawnmower manufacturers and that sort of thing, greenhouse manufacturers. So some of them I still work with today because I still have them as clients. They like me to go in and do a few things here or there, but that's very minimal. But those were, that's how I cut my teeth. I got back in the mid '90s is really when I got started.
Yep.
So yeah, that's
that's
cool.
But I mean, to bring it back to you a little bit into CAF, I mean, let's talk about product release in terms of, we were talking, I remember we had a conversation about just saying, we were on CAF and we were talking about the fact that we wanted the ability to go ahead and be able to see the art that we were commenting on. 2 days later, that was on the website. Now that is some incredibly agile product release, in my opinion.
Right. Oh man. Yeah, that's very, very true. And I forgot, Ron Lim has sent me stuff in the past as well. He helped me with the Indiana Jones logo. So see, we've got a lot of creative people who can give me advice and kind of help us steer this redesign to get it to where we all want it to be. Because at the end of the day, I want to make sure it is what everybody wants, not just what I want. In the past, it's always been whatever I wanted. I would go in and tell Chris Haggard, who was my designer and server guy for the longest time, I'd say, this is what I want. I'd give him the list, give it to him. I never asked anybody their opinions. And so we're not going to do it that way this time. We're really going to involve as much of the community as we can and make sure that it comes out perfect. And I'm sure you would agree that that's probably the way most successful projects happen.
Yeah, there's very few solo projects that are, really crazy successful. I mean, I think you've done an amazing job. You continue to do an amazing job, and I would just be happy to be part of the team.
Well, you are definitely on it. And yeah, it's funny because everybody appreciates small things. I see everybody always was happy. You were happy when I put the image on the comment page as well. You had emailed me. I've gotten a lot. Trust me, I probably got about a dozen emails from people saying they're thrilled that I finally put the image on there, because a lot of people were going back and forth. They're having two tabs open so they could look at the art and write their comment. And I always heard that, and I just never did anything about it. So
yeah, I was one of those guys. I had both of them open so I could go back and look at it, because I'm no Marcus. Okay, no, I've got no intention of ever being a Marcus, but I like to try to leave some level of insightful comment in terms of what what I'm looking at from an art standpoint. And I'm also no Chris. Don't try to wear that helm either. But I do want to try to go ahead and bring some level of design and critique to the comments that I'm bringing.
Well, yeah, well, as do we all. So now it makes a lot of sense. And actually, what I'd like to do in the redesign is probably make it larger, or at least give that as an option. So I think that looking at the thumbnail on that page isn't really, at the end of the day, what everybody really wanted. They want to be able to see a larger image there. So yeah. I will work that out.
We'll get there.
I got it. Yeah. Since we're talking about it, here I have to highlight Chris Snork's Spidey Bucks super chat as well. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I got this really nasty email this week, and again, we're not talking about your origin story yet, Eric. But since we're talking about design, yeah, I got this email from somebody, probably a new member. I don't know. I really didn't go back to check their CAF, but what they were so really angry about was that they felt that I was not displaying DPS images properly on CAF. They claimed erroneously that that DPSs were only allowed to be as wide as the vertical pages were tall, which isn't true. I wanted to write them back saying it's a 3-column layout. It's as wide as that image will fit in a 3-column layout. But they were like, you need to just scrap things and make those DPSs bigger. And well, I didn't reply, but I get it. And the thing is, it's one of the things, the pet peeves of mine as well. And I'm sure Chris would attest to this. What would be really nice when you're on a search page or even on somebody's gallery is if you hovered over the image, you got a little bit of a bigger preview, not a full size, sure. But even if it was shown at 50%, 500 pixels tall, so it's bigger than the 200, that would be really helpful, so that you're not always clicking on things that you go to it and you're like, oh, that's not what I wanted to look at all. And so that helps people optimize their time. It might decrease my page views a little bit per day, but you're all about trying to save time for people. And, because time is everything to people. And they're already spending enough time on CAF, but then that would actually allow them to spend even more. They'd be able to look at more art, because now they're actually not having to click on stuff that they're really not interested in.
Well, I mean, we can try and explain to someone how proportions work, and I don't think we'll really get anywhere. But it's little ads like that I think would make a huge difference to individuals, and really help be able to focus in on that art in terms of what you're looking at. Because I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we're there for. We're there to look at the art. We want to be able to see that and to experience it. Now, again, one of the biggest things that I have is a letdown as I go ahead and I take a look at some art and I try to zoom in on it. And then it's like a low res image, or they're using a camera phone from maybe, I don't know, 1998 or something. I'm like, no, this is so beautiful. I want to see more. I want to see the detail here. There's so much, there's anatomy, there's line weight. I want to look at all of that.
Mm-hmm. Nope. I know. It pains me when I see a great artwork and I know it's a non-premium person, so it's only 800 pixels tall, because that's where we're resizing them today. Maybe one day when I have more money and limitless server space, right, I might increase that, which would be good. But yes, Ruben, that is true. The person is referring to what a image looks like when it's a thumbnail. So, and that's why I mentioned the 3-column layout. When they're in somebody's gallery, search result page. It doesn't matter if it's a DPS or a double cover, anything like that. It's the bottom line is we've only got so much room to show the width of an image. So, and we have a 3-column layout, and you don't want to have one column this wide, one column that wide, and the next one this wide. They have to be even. So there's only so much room to work with. So, yes, but I do hope we're able to address that. I mean, come on, e-commerce sites have, preview or quick view types of options on things all the time. It makes so much sense. And even I would be open to that, where it literally loads up a small pop-up, gives you a bit of a preview of the art details as well. And then you decide what, so maybe even from there you could like it. Maybe even from there you could comment. There's a lot of cool things we could. Yeah. All right. Let's stop talking about CAF design. I should have you on a CAF update along with some of the other people I just mentioned, and we can all kick around ideas.
Sure. We could do it. We could crowdsource some ideas. We could get some of that going.
I think that would be great. I really do. All right. So let's talk more about you, Eric.
Sure.
Origin story to original comic art collecting, and even before that, comics. When did you decide comics was your thing?
So from a very early age, I was into comics, and I remember, I grew up in Madison, Wisconsin, and where we lived, we had to cross a busy street to some people here, it's probably not many busy streets in Madison, but to us, it was a busy street, and we weren't supposed to go across it to go to the Kohl's supermarket where they had the spinner rack, and I would sneak across that every single week to go and go ahead and get something and bring it back, and we'd bring it up to the treehouse and we kind of read comics, and my brother and I would go through and we'd read that. And, I really was always the Marvel kid. I was always reading Marvel. I was always about Spider-Man, been Spider-Man since day one. And my brother was the DC guy. So there you go. My brother he was reading Flash, and, he was into the Spirit. So, that got me into Will Eisner and, kind of taking a look at that. But, it started there and just kept going with comics. And then, kind of had a little bit of a time where I wasn't reading a whole lot of comics, wasn't really looking at that, but then got really back into it in high school again, and really was reading a ton of comics then. And that's, to age myself, that's when McFarlane hit the scene and like the rebirth of Spider-Man. And,
right.
At that point I had hope dreams of the fact that I was going to have this amazing comic book collection. So I'd buy 2 of each issue, one for a read and one right into the sleeve, right to be protected. So it would be worth millions. And, I still have a ton of those comics, and I still really enjoy them. But, it kind of blossomed from there because I started to go to cons, and, I was going for several years, but I never really collected art. I wasn't hip to that. I didn't really understand that hobby. I didn't know about it. And I was going to these shows and I was seeing stuff, and it was just great to be, around other people that were as excited about comics as I was. Because, with the MCU now and Disney Plus, I mean, I'm really lucky to have two young kids that they just don't know how great they have it right now, that superheroes are everywhere. And it wasn't always like that. I mean, you had to actually seek them out, and it wasn't as mainstream by any stretch of the imagination. But so I was going to cons, and I was doing that, and then I was pretty new to the hobby in the perspective as to like the most of the people here. But I got my first piece of original art in 2012. So that is quite a ways away from where we are today. But I mean, there've been people who've been collecting since the 70s and the 80s, and I mean, their collections kind of really reflect that. So, I've got a smaller collection. I don't have a ton of really big pieces, but it's continuing to grow. And, I'm picking here and there. And I've got, like everybody else, I've got my grail pieces that I want to go for. And I've got kind of the artists that I really want to be collecting. But, one of the things that I was so excited about to come on to your show, Bill, and talk about is, you don't have to have a budget of thousands of dollars a week to get into this hobby. And it's something that really truly is accessible for a lot of people. And one of the things that makes it so accessible is this community is just so amazing. It's so welcoming. It's so willing to help show you, this is how you can collect. These are the ways that you can get into it. And the feedback too. I mean, and the feedback that's on CAF and that I've received from, collectors. And I still remember when I got my first message from Mikhail, and I was like, it made my entire day. I was like, I can't believe that Mikhail would waste his time talking to someone like me, and so many other people. But it's just such a welcoming place to be for someone who's been interested in this for so long. Has just loved comics, loved the history of it, loved the art, loved the artists, And really it's been a really big piece about, it's been a really big piece of my life growing up in terms of, connecting with these stories, connecting with what these larger than life, people are doing and what that looks like. And it's been something that's been really, really, special for me. So as we're going through my stuff and looking at some of my pieces, I mean, there's going to be a couple themes, and like one of them is going to be the community, because the stories that I've got around the pieces are really about talking about how great the community's been, but then also in terms of patience, in terms of getting the right piece, and how do you make sure that you don't get passed over, and what does that look like? And I've got some stories around that. So I probably did what I shouldn't had, and I definitely watched the previous collector show, and if you're expecting any like stories about like the origin of Spider-Man and that art, I mean, you're not going to be getting me, but
no, that was a special show.
Yeah, but I definitely will. I definitely brought plenty of Spidey art.
Well, that's what you said there is something I think most new collectors, that's what they find daunting, is they think that the hobby is very closed off, and they don't, only because they don't understand it. They don't know that there is this really great community behind it. If they did, I think we would have more new collectors coming in, but I think most are scared off because it seems, like it just, especially when their first experience with it is at a con typically. And, I think that even if they think they can pick up a piece of art from an artist, or maybe they see a dealer there, it still seems too daunting. The prices are higher than what they probably expect them to be. And they don't, they're probably thinking, art collecting, isn't that kind of a snobbish sort of bent to begin with? But it's not, at least it's not, at the level that, comic art collecting at all. And I think if more people understood that and knew that there was great support, and there's many statesmen in this hobby, I mean, that have welcomed in new collectors and are welcome, and show them the way and give them advice. I think, the hobby would be a very different place. But art collecting, because of its stigma, I think really does keep some collectors from really diving into it. And you seem to have had a really good first experience, jumping in and then finding people that actually are supportive. It's probably, you were probably hoping for that, but weren't expecting that. And then that's really the case.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. And, I had some, and it's no secret. I mean, Chris Snork and I are friends, and we've known each other for a long time. And he's also been really helpful in bringing me in and kind of showing me some of the ropes. And so that's been great. But then, and I'll even talk about it in my first piece in turn, because the first piece that we're going to be showing is the very first piece that I collected. And the experience is just from the beginning was great. And then it's continued. And so, it's just something that, it's helped me make the transition from where my goal at that point was the biggest comic book collection I could have, make sure that I had every single issue of ASM, and how was I going to collect this, and make sure that I had, everything that I wanted. And then of course, the grail, I mean, how can I have an Amazing Fantasy 15 and have that in front of me? But now, it's really transitioned, and it's, the books are fantastic and they're such a part of history, but the art is even more special. And then when you can start to connect with artists, and they can go ahead and you get your first commission, and you can't believe how amazing it is. And they took this idea that you had that was just a small little stone, and they polished it into this gem, and you see that, and then you hang it on your wall, and you get to look at it, and it's art, and it's such a part of the American fabric and history in terms of where we've come from, that I've got some behind me and everything, but throughout our entire house is art, and a lot of it's comic book art. And, it's not something that I need to, have hidden away in like my room or just in an office or anything like this. It's through the entire house.
That's great. I mean, that's pretty much what we've done here as well. Maybe not as much in some of the rooms, but I've tried to keep it everywhere. I've always bought art for my kids, and I think that it's good to kind of train them young, get them used to seeing art, get them used to, and all my kids are going into art backgrounds too. So I think it's worked. It's paid off. Somebody mentioned that your kids have been watching Dueling Dealers. Is that true?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, they have. They've watched it quite a few times with me, and they're even more excited in the summer because it's not past their bedtime. So on the days when Dueling Dealers is about, they always are like, because they're always trying to push it anyway, and they're like, can we stay up a little bit later? And you're like, sometimes I'll let them watch just watch a little bit of it. But then in the morning after, they're always asking, was it a good show? Did you get anything? What was on there? And so it's a really fun connection point. And you know, I got a piece from Carlos Magnos. That's Spider-Man fighting a bunch of you know, just regular bank robbers. And with that, he also gave a print of the Hulk that he just gave it to, as you know, just because he's a great guy.
Mhm.
And my daughter, actually, of all things, she's 9. Her name's Eliza. Hi, Eliza. She's a Hulk fan. She's not a She-Hulk fan. She's not anything like this. She's a Hulk fan, and that is proudly presented in her bedroom.
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, that was a fate to have him. I have to include that in there. And Scott Wingo's imagining this early conversation between you and Chris. The best part of the hobby is Spidey art. Stay away from thing art. It totally sucks. It's a terrible investment.
Unfortunately, Scott, I didn't follow that completely, and you'll see.
That's true. That is very true. But yeah, Chris has been obviously he's been a great asset to the show because his knowledge and his interpretation and views of art he views art differently than I do. Yeah, and I appreciate that immensely. He's taught me a lot about how to look at comic art, which seems silly, you know. And I think about that all the time. That, you know, I somebody said, oh well, you were just concerned about the characters or you know, the titles, and that wasn't true. I appreciate it as art, but I didn't really examine it in the same way that I do today, you know, and in part due to Chris and all these conversations that I've had with everyone else. I view it in such a better way than I did prior to that, and it makes the hobby just that much more joyful to me because you know, because of that. And again, you know, the many conversations I've had with Dino about art on here, I mean, he dives into the details like no other as well. I mean, there's just I could run through everybody in here. Ruben, you know, Mikhail, Khalil.
Oh, I know.
Everybody, you know, and I felt like a neophyte talking with everybody about 2 years ago when I was like, man, I'm not appreciating it like everybody else is. But
well, I still feel like that. If that makes you feel any better, I mean, and you know, the amount of knowledge that's just across there. It's, you know, I know what I know, which is a small sphere, a small little section of this giant knowledge that's out there. And so, you know, I'm just happy to continually be learning, to continually learn more and get deeper and deeper into the hobby.
No, that's exactly. Well, we have so much to learn at the end of the day. I mean, you figure there's so many eras to art and creators that you can never know everything, and that's part of the joy. And all the new creators that have been coming, especially in the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, I can't keep up with the new artists, but that's what makes it fun. And I think, you know, in an era where the art prices are so expensive these days, everybody's trying to see, you know, to find new creators, and that's one way to do it. I think that's why we've seen in the last 4 or 5 years so many new art reps kind of appear out of nowhere, right? And it's been a great thing.
It makes it again accessible.
Exactly. That's the thing. Before that, you know, people sometimes complain about art reps. I think less now than they did in the past. But today, I mean, I welcome more art reps because it means we're going to get to see more artwork. And so, you know, guys like Cam from Inky Knuckles and Jiggy and Tatiana, all these people have really started their businesses in the last 5 years or less. I mean, they've done an amazing thing for all of us by raising awareness of the creators that are out there. Like when Matt was talking last night about trying to find some European art and having, you know, or even though it's work on Spidey, right? That one Spidey piece is like, it was a really big challenge for him to just find the artists and how to contact them and facilitate a purchase. And in part, that's probably because, you know, they're not repped, or I think he said there was a rep, but that's the challenge that we face every day. So, this has like been this time in the hobby in the last couple of years has just been amazing for us all, really. And I'm just excited to see where we're going to be 3 or 4 years from now. I can't even begin to imagine.
I'm so with you on that, 100%.
So Con, let's get back to you a little bit though. So Con's about 10, 11 years ago was when you first started hitting that circuit.
Oh no, I was doing cons earlier than that.
Oh, even earlier than that. Okay.
Yeah, I was doing cons in the late 90s, and you know, I was going down to Chicago. I was doing some of that. I was going to some of the small ones in Milwaukee, and taking a look at that. And you know, a lot of those, to call them cons, it's it's maybe misusing that. Flea market might be a little bit better, a better of an explanation. Yeah, I mean, I was going to those, but I wasn't going to them like really seriously. I was going, I was going by myself. I would be there for a day, like kind of just walk around, taking the sights, and you'd see some of the booths that were set up, but I didn't know how to approach it. I didn't, at that time, my mind wasn't even really on original art at any point. It was all about the different books. So I'd go to these giant long boxes, and I'd look for like this one specific book that I was missing, and I'd get that, and I'd feel like, oh, I won. This was a fantastic experience. And I would see some of the, I would see like people in like the artist alleys, and I would see that in it, but that was like a second part to the world. It was a part to the world that I didn't really understand. I didn't even know how to approach that, so to speak. And so I stayed really more where I was a little bit more comfortable and really kind of understood that. But it was around in the 2000s when I started to go to cons and started to actually go for some art and go for specific artists. And I've had a couple of those moments where, you're waiting there, and as it opens, I mean, you're running as fast as you can to get to the specific table in Artist Alley to try to get a spot on that commission list and see what they could go ahead and do and see if they would take that. So I've had a couple of those really fun experiences as well. I've had ones that have worked out, and I've had ones where I've gotten there and it's closed. Or I've had ones, I had one time where I sat and I waited. I was in a line for an hour and a half to meet J. Scott Campbell, and it just didn't happen because the line was, almost 200 people long, and everybody had 3 long boxes with them that they wanted him to sign. And so, it's part of it. It's part of the patience of the hobby too, and just being a part of it.
Right. J. Scott Campbell's lines tend to move really slow. I've never waited in one, but I've walked, in San Diego. I always set up with Mark Hay and hang out with him, and his booth is right next to where Campbell's is. And you would walk by there so many times, and you'd swear that line wasn't moving. I swear I'd see the same guy there every bathroom break in the same spot in the line. So I know they're slow, and I imagine a lot of people end up being disappointed in his line. And what are you going to do, right? I mean, it's the end of the day. You're there to meet that guy, and you really want the opportunity to get a piece of art from them or get something signed at the very least, pick up a sketchbook. So, let's see. Ruben wanted to know if you were strictly a new comics reader or buyer of back issues of CGC books. I mean, you mentioned trying to get an Amazing Fantasy, so you had goals that were broader than just buying. They were. I mean, I had my individual pieces that I really wanted to get, that things that were special to me. And, there's been lots of conversation on this show in terms of, do you collect for nostalgia? Do you collect for a specific character? Are you going just for value? And for me, it's always been, the value has been much less of a thing. I've never been really considering much of a, like turning my collection or trying to resell it. But it's really been more of nostalgia and collection for me, and connection. I mean, in terms of the characters that you look at my gallery, and there's clearly a focus. I mean, it's Spider-Man, and that has been something that's just always resonated with me. So yeah, I mean, I did plenty of new, but then I would also go and try to collect other pieces. And then there were a lot of books that from my childhood that, they didn't get saved. I mean, obviously, they got thrown out, and I've wanted to bring some of that back. I've wanted to go ahead and look at that, but I haven't been focusing on comic books now for probably about a good 5 years. Every once in a while, I'll still find myself in a shop, and I'll go ahead and I'll pick up a stack just to kind of, get reimmersed into it too, because I still love just the experience of opening up a comic and reading it and going through it and pouring through it and reading the story, and then going back to look at the art, and then picking it up again later, and, picking up the covers that you really love, and then discovering new artists too. And, seeing how some of the characters that you've grown up with have evolved. No, I think I'm kind of the same way. But it's probably been more like 15. Well, that's 15 years, probably 10 years since I was a regular comic buyer, and I regret that. But art really took over. Where my collecting interests were, and so I've read less. I've probably read more online comics recently than I have had them in my hand, and I hate to say that, but I do need to change that, because I think if I followed what you're saying, just every few months go in and pick up a stack of comics, that would kind of get me back into that field, because there isn't anything like having a comic book in your hand. I mean, I've read them on my reader, and it's not the same. It's definitely not the same
I mean,
experience.
and again, I'll age myself, and sure, I mean, I've read digital, and there's a big thing to be said for the accessibility of, hey, I want to read this exact book right now. Boom, it's there, and you got it in front of you. But it isn't the same. It's not the same feel. It's not the same format. And I mean, you can't appreciate a DPS pulled out. I mean, unless you've got a magical tablet that I'm not aware of yet that pulls out into two tablets when you're ready to look at a DPS. But it's just a little bit different. And even with so many artists now going straight to digital, there's still a translation, and there's a craft there in terms of how they take that and they turn that into a printed piece and what that looks like. And there's a history there as well. I mean, Spider-Man, is he red and black or is he red and blue? I mean, that you get down into a printing conversation there, and from someone who went to school and did design and everything like this and learn the printing process and learn about separations, you know, you can kind of get deep into those rabbit holes of, you know, how characters evolved, and that to me is also fascinating.
So is his costume blue or black?
Do you really want me to say that after the controversy I did with the
I do. Yeah.
So okay, so I'll probably get a lot of chat for this, but you know, for me, it's always going to be red and blue. That's historically what I grew up with. Whether or not it was intended to be red and black, I think there's obviously some really clear arguments that it was intended for that. But I mean, I grew up with red and blue. And you know, just into specific pieces of Spider-Man's costume, which, I mean, you look at just the design aspect of it, and outside of like the Flash and Green Lantern, I think Spider-Man has one of the most iconic costumes there is. And and even with that, I mean, there's the debate about, well, do you like the eyes when they emote? Do you not want the eyes to emote? Is there webbing between the arms and the body? And I'm less concerned about all of that. But yeah, I mean, underoos. I mean, I remember begging. I remember begging my parents for underoos, and I mean, it's not like now you can go tripping down the sidewalk and everything's comic book. So you know, it's to me, there's always going to be that nostalgia factor. And I have Spider-Man. For me, Spider-Man will always be in the 80s to early 90s, and where he is there. And you know, sorry, Peter, your development halted there for me.
I don't blame you. I mean, for the longest time, I felt it was blue too, but I think it was meant to be black.
It was.
The blue was the highlights.
Yeah.
But I get it. I mean, for me, when I think of Spidey's costume, I always think red and blue. But I know I'm wrong. You know, it's at the end of the day. Yeah. But I can't view it any other way. And so yeah, just reading through the chat. There's mixed. Everybody, it's like 50-50 in terms of what everybody else wants the answer to be. Side question here from Khalil. He wanted to know what your favorite Spidey issue or story it was.
Oh, geez.
Do you have one, or
to pin it down to one is difficult. It's definitely going to be. You know, I think I'd rather talk about artists, and for me, it's Ditko. I mean, it's Ditko day in, day out. And to one day own a Ditko is going to always be a grail for me that I'm going to be searching for. And that's going to be a rotating grail, because if I get a Ditko, then I'm going to want another one. I mean, it's going to be crack cocaine for me, I'm sure. You know, some of those overall pieces, I'm not going to try and ever, collect McFarlane art, even though that was something that was really, really critical to me too. Is, you know, that's Scott's. I mean, Scott's got that. I don't want to try to go up against Scott. That's not a battle I'm going to
Wingo. I don't blame you. He's got one heck of a McFarlane Spidey collection. So,
but if I were to go to probably my favorite Spider-Man story, it's the and you know, I'm blanking on this right now, and this is something too that I don't have the deep knowledge that everybody else has, so I won't be able to name the exact issue. But it's where, you know, the building collapses on Spider-Man, and he's got to get up. He's got to go save Aunt May. And if he's not worthy of the strength, then why does he have it? And I mean, that to me is the epitome of Spider-Man. He's not the strongest. He's not, but he's going to be the guy that's going to stand there and hold the line until the Avengers show up, until the Fantastic Four shows up. And he's not going to give up. He's always going to be down on his luck, but he's never going to stop. Thank you, ASM 33.
Yep. And Sarah says, get him to show the Ditko tribute tattoo. Is that true?
Oh boy. Oh, which one? So
Well, I guess Sarah didn't know there were two or
yeah, she
more.
does.
Ah.
So I've got that. I've got that,
Wow,
which
man, check
is,
that out. And it's black.
yeah, and that's the, you know, and that's the spider symbol from the belt where you
Yep.
shine it up on there. And then I also have here, which is, you know, it reads "Never give up."
Never give
And
up.
so I've got kind of an arm that's dedicated to Spider-Man tattoos.
Yeah, that is a lot of ink. Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. I've not gotten a Thor tattoo yet or anything X-Men related, but if I did get a tattoo of a comic character, it'd be one or the other. Probably a Thor hammer at this point.
Well, it sounds like we've got something to do at Heroes Con.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maureen might be coming with me, and she is against me ever getting a tattoo. I've talked about it numerous times, but she's not into it, unfortunately. So it might be a tough sell. But if she doesn't come out, maybe we can work that out.
We'll figure out something.
Yeah. See, Brett Mixon has said claim Spider-Man arm. There you go. With great tattoos come great responsibility. Rick W. Yes. Thank you so much. Marcus Way says I should get a tramp stamp. No, I will not, Marcus. That is not going to happen. And Chris says he'll distract Maureen. All right. Well, maybe we'll work something out.
Yep.
But so I don't know if it's time to look at art yet or not. I mean, Eric, so it seems like, after, you started going to cons, I mean, what was your buying experience when you weren't at cons? I mean, were you doing more purchases from reps, or were you looking for older artwork? So you were buying more from, vintage dealers? How was your experience outside of cons and the direct, one-to-one experience buying from artists, like before you kind of got to this point today?
Well, I think the perfect segue is let's jump into the first piece, because that'll start to help tell that story.
All right. That's a good way to start here. So let's get the first artwork on the screen.
So this here is the very first commission that I ever got, and it's a Phil Hester Spider-Man. This commission, I didn't even understand how to get commissions, and so it was at a free comic book day at a local comic book shop here in Madison, and Phil Hester and Bill Reinhold were there, and I went up and I approached them, and I was like, and Phil could just tell that I didn't really know what I was doing. And I was like, would you draw Spider-Man? And he's like, yeah, of course I'll do that. And he started to, kind of talk to me about it. And he was talking about, he's like, hey, have you gotten a lot of art before? And I was like, no, this is kind of my first one. And Bill was right there too. And he just goes, well, do you want me to do something? And I was like, if you could, my brother loves the Flash. Would you do a Flash head sketch? And so he did a Flash head sketch for me. But Phil did this for me, and this has been just, even though it's my first piece, it's still one of my most cherished pieces. And on top of that, it's led to conversations that I've had with Phil Hester. I've connected with him on social media, and I've spoken to him about this piece. He remembers the piece. He's just been so incredibly nice to talk to. And he's even referenced the fact that he's shown this piece to other people because it's just got this incredibly spidery feel to it. But I mean, it's just something that he put together so quickly that is just such a great piece. And so, this was my first piece of original art. And, I just cherished it once I saw it, and it's just held up. And I mean, Hester he's just fantastic. I love Hester's work. Anything that he touches, he's got he can blend so many individual styles while still staying really unique to his own style. And this is just such a fantastic piece that I have. And that was my first talking with an artist and saying, hey, will you go ahead and do this? And he went ahead and he put this together. I didn't even know how much it was going to cost. And I just asked him, he could tell that I didn't know what I was doing. And he was just so kind to guide me through that whole experience.
Yeah, no, that's, I've actually not spoken to Phil myself, but he was on Comic Art Live last May. Really great guy, an amazing art collector. It's not going to say ho anymore, everybody. I've decided to fix that. I'm tired of the questions. But Phil, but you know, I mean, if anybody hasn't seen Phil Hester's collection on CAF, I mean, he's got an amazing art collection. So you couldn't have asked for a nicer, more knowledgeable guy to
No.
wind up in front of to get your first piece of art from.
Well, and he's someone that I follow on social media too, because he's basically like a free art class. He will go ahead and just go, here's this page, and he'll even talk about why he appreciates it. And I'll look at it and I'll see an artist that I never knew of from the 30s, and he'll talk about what's so important about that piece. And I've told him this, and if Phil ever sees this, I'm dead serious about this. He needs to sell tickets to just come and take a look at pieces of his collection, because it is so vast. And I mean, you know, you name big names, he's got something, and he's got it for a specific reason. And he also is a true artist. He understands the art. He understands all of those aspects of it. And he appreciates that at a level that I would love to someday have just the knowledge that he has, that I could have appreciated at the way that he does.
No, I agree. He if you haven't seen the panel that he did last May, it was really great, because it wasn't talking about him as an artist. It was talking about him as a collector, and he was showing off pieces from his collection. And he's always, I've got a short list of people who've always been that I've wanted to talk to, and he's been at the top, and I haven't even reached out to him. I mean, I've got to do it before it ends up being, you know, another year goes by where I don't get a chance to talk to him. But yeah, he's a super great guy, very knowledgeable, like you said, and just a fantastic collection and a fantastic artist. I mean, at the end of the day, Phil's been working in the industry for a very long time. So yeah, well, I'm gonna have to correct that. But so yeah, that was great. Yeah, so did you get any other art though at that day when you were at the show?
No, that was just it. I mean, it was just those two individual pieces, and you know, I gave the head sketch to my brother, and he loved it, and he still has it in his office. And but that's really kind of started to scratch the itch in terms of collecting art, because now all of a sudden I was like, oh, well, that wasn't that hard. That was kind of easy, and it was a really great experience, and it made me now want to go. And you know, and that wasn't even at a con. I mean, that was just at a comic book shop for free comic book day. They were just there. They were just there to be there, and you know, to be able to do some work. And so at that point, that's when I was like, okay, now it's time to go ahead and branch out. So you know, that was all the way back in 2011.
Wow. Well, that's again, he would have been the best he's one of the best people to have your first piece from. So man, you definitely lucked out on that one. And like Dino just said, you can't stop at one piece. So no. Once you get it, and you had a good experience, it wasn't a bad experience. I mean, that's key too to your first art buy. You know, it was exactly not what you expected. They were welcoming, and you know, really easy and approachable. I know, and that's what for me early on in my you know, before I started buying original art, I'd see Artist Alley, and they weren't that busy. I mean, they're not like they were today. I remember going to Wizard Cons in Chicago in say 96, 97, and I'd be walking by Artist Alley, and there would just be no customers there. The artists were there, but there'd be like nobody at their tables, or not many, and enough to make it like you think of like New York or something, or San Diego, or any busy show these days where the aisles would be packed in Artist Alley. Back then, they just weren't. And so I always looked at it the same way. I looked at it as this place that I didn't belong. I didn't want to walk in front of anybody, because I knew, you know, it's like when you're at any place where people are hawking things, the moment, you know, they're going to ask you to come over and take a look at something. And since there's nobody there, heck, every guy I walk in front of is going to be asking me to take a look at what they've got. So I'd stay away. So yeah, no, I totally get it. But so that one experience changed everything for you. Was it cons after that, or
yeah, no, it's been really, I mean, it started with cons, and then, you know, I've kind of branched out from there, and I've had some great experience with some reps that I'll talk about tonight, and and all of that. But you know, the underlying theme is that, yeah, okay, it's true, I've had one or two bad experiences where I've had a commission that didn't turn out exactly, or you know, I would try to talk to a rep, and you know, they didn't have any time for me. But those are the exceptions. By and large, it's been just such a great community to be able to be a part of. And you know, some of these people that I've walked up to, and I'm walking up to giants, because you know, at the time I've learned so much more about Hester. At the time, I knew he was an artist. I knew he was good. I didn't know that much about him. Kind of glad I didn't, because I don't think I probably would have been too intimidated to talk to him. But I've gone up to other artists from, from there that, and I've spoken to, and they're all, I've never had one be like, arrogant or I don't have time for you. I mean, they're as excited to talk to you as you are to them. And, you meet some of these people that you've been looking at their art for years, and you get these moments where you can see them at their table on their board doing things that you're like, how do you even do that? I mean, you're not even starting to sketch something. You're drawing over here, and now you're over here. I mean, the composition is already in your head. How do you even do that? And then they come up with these pieces, and they're excited to show it to you. They're excited, and they're excited that you're excited. And it's, it's just a really cool community and hobby. And there's plenty of other hobbies I have that aren't like that, that are very exclusive and are very, very much, well, you haven't paid your dues here, you need to get out of here. And I personally haven't really encountered that.
No, I mean, I don't even want to say that might have been how it was around the time I started a little, but I think that but the hobby hasn't been like that really in the last 20 years. I don't think it's been much more opening. I always talk about, you've heard my first experience at Berkey's house, where I didn't have a seat at the table. And I don't think that was a not paid your dues thing. It might've been just more of a, they didn't know you, or they knew you didn't have the money to sit at that particular table. But it's not like that at all anymore. I mean, people who have expensive collections love to, that are more, open, love to share their collections on CAF, and are more and very open about talking about what they have, and definitely, I mean, again, if they're on CAF and if they're in this audience, they're very open people. I mean, they wouldn't, it would be a very different world, I think, today if we didn't have CAF, and just the experience of being able to share and letting people know that you're open to getting an email about a piece of art. I think a lot of guys out in the chat today have shown me, through their generosity, whether it's comments like Marcus or other people, just sending an email to someone, letting them know their collection's great. And I think that those things help move the hobby forward. And and I'm so happy that we've been kind of been in that position as a hobby for at least definitely the last 20 years. So
well, and there's pieces in my collection too. There's pieces in my collection, and one that I'll even talk about, that I got through CAF. And I wouldn't have learned about it at the pace that I did, or at the time that I did, without that. And so, it's CAF has become such a, I don't want, enabler is the wrong word, because I don't want it to sound negative, but it's something that really helps enable the hobby, and really brings everybody together, and there's a connection there. And so it's a special place.
Yeah. I was just reading. Samuel Rojas said, I heard the CGC forum is very welcoming. All right, that might not be the same, but they talk comics there too, so they kind of have a different bent. Even the art collectors there have a, they're definitely on the comic side, and there's a little bit more sarcasm on the comic side of collecting. I mean, it's not art collecting, and so I expect those kinds of things over there, which is why I don't frequent the CGC boards. Nothing against anybody who does. It's just not my place. I mean, that's, our hobby is so very, very unique, as far as us as collectors, and our passion for the hobby. It's different. It's just not the same. And like you were saying, other collectibles have a different approach to them.
And listen, I'm not trying to throw any shade at people who want to go ahead and slab comics. I mean, if that's your thing, that's fantastic. But for me, one of the reasons that I don't have any interest in slabbing a comic or doing that is because I couldn't read it. I couldn't do it. I mean, there's a reason that the art is hanging in my house. It's so that I can go around and I can take a look at it, and not a week goes by that I don't walk around. I mean, it's not like that I've got hundreds and hundreds of pieces, but every single one of them, when I still enjoy looking at them. I want to do that. I want that to be what they're there for. And there's been great conversations too about, well, do you put up photocopies, and what does that look like, or do you want the original? And it's not just comic book art in the house too. I mean, I've got Rothko prints in the house.
Oh, cool.
They're prints. I mean, one of my favorite American artists that is Mark Rothko, and I would have an original Rothko if I could afford it. But until then, I'm going to go ahead and have the prints. So if I can afford to have some of the comic art out, I'm going to have the original comic art out.
That's great. That's great. So why don't we look at some more art then? Because maybe we'll get to some of these interesting stories you've had with
You bet.
with other reps or other artists. So let's see, second piece here, kind of reminiscent of what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
But a great page.
So this is you know, this was my first published piece that I purchased, and I got this at C2E2 in Chicago in 2020, and I actually got this from Moy, and this is you know, the fact that I actually was able to, you know, bargain the price a little bit and have some conversation about what I was going to pay for it. I mean, granted, I didn't get a steep discount, but I got a slight discount. But you know, it's what I love about this is, you know, the paneling on this is so fantastic. It's John Romita Jr., another artist that you know, one that I just absolutely adore, and it's a tribute to one of my favorite Spider-Man stories of all time. So you know, this to me is it's a Ditko tribute. It's a tribute to JR. It's a tribute to Spider-Man. It's something that, and for my first published piece, you know, one of my favorite comments I got on this was, I said, hey, it's my first published piece, and someone was like, well, that's one heck of a first published piece that you got. And I was really lucky to get that. And you know, going through that experience though, you know, we had the opportunity to, I was talking with Albert, and you know, I spent a lot of time at the booth, and he was just willing to talk and share, and he had all of this amazing art. And as he saw what I was looking at, he was like, no, you should look at this. You should go ahead and take a look at this. And you know, he was really just so opening. And then at the end of the day, he actually let us help him tear down his booth. So here I was actually able to move art that, you know, I've never even gotten close to, and I actually helped pack up a Frazetta, and you know, it was just such a really cool experience and so incredibly inclusive as well.
So was that part of the deal? Did Albert want you to just help him pack up after a show? So he spent that extra few minutes with you to help you, convince you to purchase this piece. I mean, it's a fantastic piece. I mean, I love it. I'm just finding a little bit of humor in Albert, you know, coercing some collectors, as Chris just mentioned, you know, as well, that to help pack up his booth. I'm gonna have to bring that up with him. That's an interesting strategy.
Was that part of the deal? You know, I think we'll go ahead and we'll leave that for another time. But you know, it was, but you know, the thing that really got me is he was learning about what I liked. He was learning about what I was wanting. And I mean, he's a phenomenal salesman. And so he was like, well, you should look at this. And well, if you like that, then you should look at this. And he just started to connect all of these individual pieces that it just, you know, my head started to swim. And I was looking at all of the art that he had, and you know, he just had these massive crates of all of this fantastic art, and it was a really cool experience. And that was you know, that was my first experience with him, and it was a fantastic one.
No, that's great. I mean, a lot of times Moy he's kind of unapproachable sometimes. At least I felt that. But I mean, you hit him on a good day. And I'm not saying I love Albert, but sometimes I remember, you'll see him at San Diego, and he just doesn't look happy. And Marcus knows this. He's been behind the booth many times with Albert. So you know, he sometimes he can be like that. But that's what you need. I mean, so you've kind of had like the perfect first experience when you picked up your first commission effectively through Phil, and then your first published piece through Albert. Yep. You know, irrespective of having to help Albert pack his booth up after the show. No, but like you said, I think
got to help.
Right. Exactly. But I know what you're talking about. I mean, Albert's booth is behind Marquez at San Diego. So while I've never helped him pack or unpack, I've gone through gone to his booth many times. And yeah, I mean, it's like being in a gallery looking through the artwork that Albert brings to bigger shows. I mean, you're going to handle a few Frazettas if you're helping him pack or unpack.
And did we go a little bit slower than he would have? You know, maybe we ended up opening up some portfolios.
Yeah, you're like, wow, look at this. Yeah,
it's hard to say.
I'm still gonna tease him about that. He and I are due for a call because I'm almost done with his redesign. Finally, he's getting a mobile site, and I've taken far too long on getting it done, and so we're pretty close to finally rolling that out with a few upgrades that he's been asking about.
Well, so, and one of the cool things too about going to the con is, like, this was one of the last big cons before COVID hit.
Oh, wow.
And so it was like this was no one knew about COVID. I mean, it wasn't a really big thing. But then directly after that, it was like literally 2 or 3 weeks that everything around COVID started to come out, and cons just started kind of closing down and everything. And so, one of the reasons I'm so excited to go to Heroes is not just because it's Heroes. I mean, I'm thrilled for that. I've always wanted to go to that show, but it's coming back to cons and starting to get back to that community. And I can't wait to see Artist Alley, and I can't wait to see, these other people that I've only met in chat or via email, and start to meet some of these people too. And I think that's going to be such an amazing experience.
I agree. Just reading through there, Rich Danny's. I completely agree, Rich. I feel out of all the dealers, Albert's always had the best taste in art, and you can't teach that. He does. He's got a very good eye. I mean, he usually only gets the best. He has a really, from the pieces that he chooses to market, they are typically pieces that you're not going to see Mike have, certainly not Anthony in most cases, and I'm not knocking anybody, but Albert really, I really meant that when it's like browsing a gallery. When you look at what Albert brings to a show, because he really brings fantastic pieces from a lot of times from creators you might not expect to see. So no, I completely agree with that. And Jeff, yes, we were actually, you probably missed the beginning of the show where we were talking about CAF. CAF redesign is definitely in the future, and it will have a mobile friendly component to it. I promise.
Mobile first, Bill. We'll be mobile first.
Mobile first. Yes, I got to start saying that. But yeah, everybody's looking forward to Heroes. But let's see here. So let's move on to the next piece of art. Not a published piece.
No, not a published piece. Here's another commission, and this is one. This is one of those experiences where this was C2E2 as well in 2012, and this is where I ran to Jim Chung's booth. I ran there, and I'm a taller guy, so I've got longer legs. I got there, before anybody else, kind of out of breath. And he kind of looked up like, whoa, someone's here. And I was like, is there still room on the list? And he looks around at me like, there's no one else here. So yeah, there's room on the list. And so I had an opportunity to kind of speak to him. And I said, I presented to him. I said, look, I want you to do Spider-Man, but I want to see his chin. And I said, it's your choice as to whether or not his mask is kind of rolled up or if it's kind of battle damaged. And he made the decision to go ahead and make it battle damaged. And this became a really big theme for me in terms of, I love seeing Spider-Man kind of beat up. And I've had friends of mine, kind of tease me like, well, do you actually like Spider-Man, or do you just like seeing him all beat up? And it's like, no, it's all part of that. And I've got kind of both of this, but one of the things that I love about commissioning artists is giving them a little bit of an idea, but then letting them run with it, letting them kind of go ahead and do what they're going to do with it. So I love the fact that Jim made him, younger. The shading on this is just phenomenal in person. And I mean, he even though it was just, it was a commission at a con, he put in all of this extra detail, the lighting on the neck, the volume around the shoulder and the chest and the head. And, it's just a fantastic piece. And, when I went to go and pick it up, he, I don't know if at the time he was really worried about people kind of flipping things, but he just goes, well, what's your name? And I told him it was Eric, and he goes, okay, I don't want to see this on eBay. And it was such a kind of funny comment to me, because I was like, are you kidding me? I'm never going to let this out of my sight, let alone try to go ahead and sell it. So I love the fact that he personalized it. I love the fact that he dated it. And it's I saw that in the chat too. I mean, it's the little details. It's the crack in the lens. He just really went above and beyond on this piece.
I agree. And a few funny comments in there. Rich said he was able to eat a hot dog from a vendor that day after
exactly. It was, and maybe Peter had the money that day. So I mean, that's even better.
That's true. That is true. And Chris mentioned his Copics are so good. That is very true. No, it's a very great piece. And and I imagine a lot of artists do ask that question from shows, because there are guys out there that do flip con sketches a lot. I mean, that's what drove con sketch prices up a lot in the last 10 years, was when people would see guys coming back from cons. Some of those guys felt they were doing it for the right reasons, saying, I'm helping bring that artwork out so that somebody else can own it. but again, they were just creating a niche, you know, for themselves. They have an eBay store, and you know, many artists certainly, and some collectors, many collectors as well, frowned upon that because it did keep art from the collectors who were at the show as well, and which isn't cool. I mean, you know, it's altruistic to kind of get it out there to people who couldn't make it. But if you get a spot in front of some, you know, on somebody's list, and other artists or other collectors get closed out, I mean, that was you know, very disappointing. And they paid to go there, maybe traveled to go there, and got so artists were, you know, will always probably be very concerned about those sorts of things.
Well, and that's one of the things I love about getting a commission at a show too, is because there's a thrill to it. I mean, I think if I'm remembering correctly, I think he only took like 3 to 4 commissions that show. So getting the opportunity to, you know, to be able to get there and, you know, talking ahead of time, like, which artists do I want to try to go after? What's my priority order? Who am I going to go and try and get some work from? And then after after that initial thrill is over, you've done that, then you can go and enjoy the con. Then you can kind of walk around and see the rest of the artists, and, you know, to talk to some people, meet people that you've never had the opportunity to see, you know, compliment them on their work. It's just a really cool experience.
Yep, I agree. And just other comments in there. It was nice, like Jeff just said, it let up, you know, that pricing thing, you know, going on after shows did allow artists to know what the true value of their work was. It's true. I completely agree. And Rich points out something we've talked about several times. The Adam Hughes market changed a lot when they were seeing what those prices were fetching after the fact. And, you know, Adam and, you know, they definitely decided to take a different approach after that as far as pricing art. And speaking of pricing art, next Tuesday, I've got Sean Gordon Murphy on, and that's one of the big topics we're going to be talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Is how they price their artwork, because, you know, they really, they out of the gate, you know, if you go look at his work that's available for sale on his site today, I mean, most pieces are $2,000, $2,500, $3,000. And, so they're not shy about saying, you know, if that's what the market bears, when I see it over on Heritage or I see it here, that's where we're going to go too. So I think, and I'm looking forward to the talk next Tuesday about that, because they came to me saying, we want to talk about that. We want to share our opinions on how we choose to price Sean's artwork because of the market conditions. I think it's going to be pretty cool.
Well, you know, and I'm all for people being able to get the art. I'm all for, you know, dealers doing what they're doing. I mean, because they serve a giant service, and they you know, like you said, some of the new people who have been new people have been popping up, and they're bringing forward new perspectives and new artists, and you know, that's fantastic. At the end of the day, though, I want to make sure that the artists get paid too. I mean, they're the ones they're the talent. They're the ones that are doing this, that they're sharing their craft. And, you know, it's that old adage about, you know, when a plumber comes and does something for 15 minutes, you're not paying for the 15 minutes, you're paying for the 15 years that it got them to take to do 15.
Right.
So I don't care if you know, if Jim Chung, you know, did that bust in 5 minutes. He didn't, but he's got the ability to do that. And so it's worth what he wants to sell it for.
Yep. Here. I mean, that's, I feel the same way. You know, you got to be paid for what you're worth. And I just think that until there was a market for it, it was hard for everybody to know what those things were worth. I mean, you think back to 25, 30 years ago when artists were doing free sketches at shows, and not just head sketches, you know, really nice sketches. I mean, you know what? I actually got a free Jim Lee sketch, if you can believe that. I mean, at a San Diego, he sat down in Artist Alley, and I remember, I think Colin Solon, my editor, he was like, Bill, Jim just sat down and he's just doing, you know, some quick sketches on, you know, so anybody could bring anything. And I was like 10th in line, and he did just a free Wolverine that I don't own anymore. And so that was the only free one I got. But, you know, it's rare. But you know, you figure Jim, he can do whatever he wants, right? If he wants to sit down for an hour and do 10 head sketches, that's great. So you know, he can do it. But I agree. I mean, I think that's the best thing that's come out of the last 10, 15 years, is artists getting paid properly for what they're worth. The reps have helped them do that, and those who haven't been repped have been able to figure it out on their own fairly quickly. You know, what their art's worth. Yeah. So let's see. Let's look at some more artwork here.
I've also I've been lucky enough that I don't have any spidey sense around this, but I've had the opportunity to get pieces from artists before they got really big, and therefore were far more affordable. And here's one of them from Umberto Ramos. Again, I got this at Wizard World in Chicago in 2012. And when I went up and I approached his table, I mean, I knew the work that he'd been doing. He'd been doing some Spider-Man, and he didn't speak very much. He didn't speak very much English. I don't speak any Spanish, but his rep was there, and I was talking to his rep. And, you know, I was talking about what I wanted, and I was like, you know, I really want to start getting Spider-Man against some of the, you know, some of his classic villains. And his rep was like, oh, you know, what you really want is you want Green Goblin, because you want that Ramos big Green Goblin eye. And I was like, oh, you better believe I do. Please go ahead and do that. So, you know, he speaks to him. He goes ahead and he starts kind of drawing, and he was excited about it, because he really wanted to go ahead and do this. And when I went to actually go pick it up the next day, someone actually tried to buy it from me. They saw that, and they were like, is this for sale? And I was like, no, that's mine. He's like, how much would you sell it for? And I was like, no, you don't understand. I commissioned him specifically for this. I want this piece. And he did just such a great job of, you know, having Spider-Man doing that, you know, that specific kind of like almost anime style, you know, acrobatics that he can do, and kind of like twisting and doing that pose. And then you've got Green Goblin coming in right behind on him. And I just really like this book. And a couple weeks after I got it, his rep reached out to me too, and he's like, hey, he wants to use it in one of his sketchbooks. Can you go ahead and scan it and send it to us? And so I was really excited, and I sent it to him. He didn't end up using it, but you know, it was just another nice touch to this. And again, I was lucky enough to get a Ramos at a really reasonable price, and I think he just blew this, you know, this commission out of the ballpark.
Yeah, no, this is spectacular. I really like this one a lot. And I mean, just, you know, I mean, he's great with dynamic figure drawing as far as the poses and everything. And this one's really great. And it's funny, I've had similar experiences where people see stuff that when I've commissioned an artist and they want to know if it's available. I mean, that's a nice compliment. You know, you're getting something good when somebody else at the table, you know, also would love to own the piece of art that you're getting from someone. So yeah, this is a really great piece. And you almost got it in a sketchbook, so it would have made it published.
It would have, but you know, it's still really cool.
So yeah, that is really cool. So Chris is asking if it's in your CAF.
It is.
Okay. Let's see. Let me move this thing. Sorry, I was on the wrong screen. But yeah, no, that's great. Ramos is just you know, I don't own it. I've never owned anything by Ramos, but I've always loved his work. So great.
Well, and you take a look at some of the stuff that he's got in like the Comic Link auction right now, and you know, he's definitely one of those artists that just, in my opinion, just continually keeps getting better and keeps challenging himself, keeps refining his craft, and you know, you look at some of the pieces that are there, and I mean, they're just beautiful. I mean, they're gorgeous pieces, and they're definitely a lot more than I paid for that one.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So cherish it.
Yes.
So, you know, so thinking along those lines, you're more of a buyer than a seller? Have you ever sold anything that you've bought? I mean, you know, you're relatively new collector in 10 years. So
yeah, no, I'm relatively new. I do have one piece that I you know, I'm willing to go ahead and get rid of. But you know, I've never sold anything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still collecting. I'm still amassing. I have I've got that constant battle in terms of collecting the art, and then what am I going to frame, and what am I going to go ahead and put up? You know, I think it's someone that's been on your show that says, you know, this world has walls, and these walls need art. I still have plenty of walls that need art, and so I'm still working through getting everything framed and up. But yeah, I don't know if selling is ever going to be a big thing for me, because again, it's kind of the way that I approach it, that everything's got some level of nostalgia or some level of meaning to me. And, you know, you never say never, but yeah, at this time, yeah, I'm more into adding to the collection than trying to refine it.
Very well. That's good. I mean, that's a great place to be. I mean, at some point you might get to a point where you're like, I can get a better piece from this artist, so you're willing to let go of a lesser one. You never know. After you've been collecting, you know, 20 years, things could change, but that's good to know at this point. I mean, I think a lot of collectors, you know, at this juncture, say 10 years in, are still more buyers than they are sellers. You know, it fluctuates, of course.
Yeah.
It's there's no rule to anyone, but I think that's great.
But then I hear people like you and everything. I mean, I could hear the pain in your voice talking about, well, I don't own that Wolverine anymore.
Yeah, no, I regret it. I wish I'd never sold anything. If I could go back in time, I would never sell any artwork that I bought.
Yeah.
I really wouldn't. Because I've loved it all way too much. And I remember, there was a conversation we had, it was probably like 3 weeks ago, where I talked about that Mignola X-Men cover that I had, and I couldn't remember what it was.
Yep.
Everybody, I think some people said it must have been classic X-Men. You want to know what it was? It was the cover to X Factor Annual #4. So if anybody wants to look that up, you can see that. But I had to go look, because I was like, this is ticking me off that I can't remember. Couldn't find the cover, because I thought it was a classic X-Men cover too, but it wasn't. It was an X Factor cover. So
still though.
At any rate, yes, those are the deep regrets that I've got. But let's see. And Dino, since we were talking about Ramos, Dino mentioned the Spider-Man 1 cover from 2014, nearly 10K already. Exactly. So yeah, I'll be watching a few of those auctions tomorrow night.
Yeah, I think that's going to go a little north of that before it's out, before it's done tomorrow.
Yeah, me too. And that's why we took the dueling dealers off yesterday, because I was like, I want to watch several of the lots on there, even though I'm not bidding on anything. It's very, Josh has done a great job with Comic Link in the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, just really cultivating, really bringing in a lot of great pieces of art. So he's definitely separated himself from the pack. There's Heritage and there's Comic Link right now, right? I mean, they're just bringing out some amazing auctions every single time they have either a signature auction or one of his featured auctions. They're just, you want to be a spectator. I wish they were live. It would be even more fun, some way, like the Heritage Live auctions are. I'd love to see that. All right, let's keep looking at some artworks here. And this is a great image.
So here's another one. This is again in that I got really lucky and could afford them when I could afford them, in terms of, this is a Ryan Stegman that I also got at Wizard World. And this one was actually where I actually approached Ryan about this personally, about going ahead and getting a commission from him. And he was just fantastic to work with and talk to. And he was like, well, what are you looking for? And I said, well, what I'm really looking for is I'm looking for Spider-Man, and I love the classic Spider-Man villains. And I go, I want Spider-Man fighting Sandman. Sandman's one of my favorite Spider-Man villains. And he was like, all right, well, I've got an idea. And this was, again, this was a patience piece, because it was supposed to be done 3 or 4 separate times before it was finally done. And but it was completely and totally worth it for a bunch of different reasons. And he said, hey, it's going to be done. I said, well, I'll be at Wizard World in 2012. He's like, great, I'll meet you there and I'll have it. And I went and I saw him on Friday, and it still wasn't completely done. And he was like, oh, I'm sorry, I've been busy. I go, you're doing a great job on it. Just go ahead and complete it. And he got it done by the end of the con. But one of the things that was so cool about that is he was so great. And at the time, Dan Slott was editing Spider-Man. And so I went and I spoke to Dan Slott a little bit. And I don't know if those two spoke or anything, but we went to one of the panels at the con, and Stegman and Slott brought me up on stage. In order to, they said that we've got some unfinished pages of a Spider-Man story, and we want to bring up a really, really big Spider-Man fan. So everybody's hand goes shooting up, and mine's shooting up, and they picked me, and they brought me up there. And I'm taking a look at this, and I wasn't really sure what I was looking at, but I mean, it was scans of the work that they were doing, and it was actually the first pages of Superior Spider-Man. So I was getting to see that Doc Ock was going to take over Peter's body, and I was maybe I like to believe that I was maybe one of the first fans to go ahead and see that. But I didn't even really know what I was looking at, and but they say that it showed in my eyes with the reveal, because it got super wide, and I got to see that, and it was just a really incredible moment to not just be able to get this fantastic image. And I just love how dynamic it is, Spider-Man just punching through Sandman. But then on top of it, we went to a panel, and they brought me up on stage, and I got to see the fact that old Doc Ock was going to occupy Peter's body and become the superior Spider-Man.
I mean, how cool is that? That's just a fantastic story. I don't think I've ever been picked out of a crowd to go up on stage.
I was just beaming from ear to ear. I just couldn't believe it. And, you know, and of course they're having some fun with it. And they're like, okay, now you can't tell anyone. You can't tell anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I maybe told 1 or 2 people.
Oh man. See, Scott Wingo wasn't there, or he wasn't raising his hand high enough in the crowd.
No, it was really cool. And so again, I mean, that's another piece that, you know, you look at what Stegman's doing now, and again, another artist that, and Ryan especially, Ryan Stegman, I definitely think is an artist that just keeps getting better. The work that he's putting out, I mean, he's just growing and growing. And, you know, I watch some of his live streams in terms of what he does. And he's another one of those artists that while I'm watching him, I just go, I don't understand how he can get from where he starts to where he ends. Because it's not like the typical progression. He doesn't do like a circle for the head and then, you know, the lines for the eyes and everything like this. I mean, he's already drawing detail way ahead of anything else. And then it all just comes together. So, you know, I was just really thrilled to get that piece from him. And it's still, it's hanging up and it's actually hanging up right next to the Ramos.
Oh, very nice. And a place you can see it every day, right?
Every day it's in my office.
Oh man, that's great. All right, man. I mean, that's I don't know. I've got to, like somebody said, it's got to be good hair. So I think now I've got good hair. Maybe I can get called up on stage at some point. I don't know.
Okay, sure.
Hey, that's the guys in the audience. It's that's what keeps the show lively.
You got it. So this one here is one that is special, not because it's a McNiven. I love McNiven, and you know, I really got into McNiven in Civil War, but and I've always wanted to get a McNiven piece, and so I actually found this McNiven, the pencils, on eBay. And you know, obviously won the eBay auction, but then when I got it, I said, well, I love McNiven, but I also love Mark Morales. And, you know, it still blows me away that, you know, there isn't an Eisner category for best inkers and everything like this. But for me, you know, Mark Morales is one of the best inkers in the business and continues to just operate at an incredibly high level. But what I did is I reached out to Mark and I was like, hey, I've got this McNiven piece. Will you go ahead and ink it? And he goes, okay, well, send me a picture of it. And I did. And he's like, oh yeah, this is one of his sketches. It's not on a board that will work for me to ink it. But if you'll scan it and do it, I'll ink the blue lines for it. And it actually kind of started an odd, you know, a lot of people tell me that it's an odd thing that I actually really enjoy having both the pencils and the inks. And I get them side by side because there's a different quality to the art on both sides. And, you know, McNiven is just such a master of what I like to consider superhero anatomy. It's like this perfect mix of the, you know, that mythological superhero body, but yet the anatomy is still so spot on that someone actually could stand like that. They wouldn't necessarily have the same proportions, but it's so true. And then when you take it and you see what Mark did with it, I mean, he brings another life to it. He adds his own flair and his own quality to it. And to the point that, you know, I really think that you can go ahead and you can pick out inkers as well as you can pick out pencils. And it's just absolutely fantastic. And, you know, these are two pieces that I have side by side, but this was my introduction to Mark Morales. And he's inked quite a few pieces for me past that. And he just continues to be such an amazing person to work with, so accessible. He talks to me. He's willing to like respond to me on social media, even though he's constantly putting out, I think, 8 books a day. You know, he's just so fantastic. And, you know, you talk about people charging what they're worth. He's definitely an artist. And I'll be saying this to my detriment, but he's definitely an artist that undercharges what he should be for the work that he puts out.
Well, then he might be getting a lot more work soon from other collectors if you say that too many times. But no, it's that beautiful, and you know, that's really great to have both the pencils and inks. I get asked that question a lot about should I ink the pencil piece that I have, and I always say it's, you know, if you love that pencil piece, do a blue line and get it get that one inked. And so it's, you know, and I think he was right anyway, because the paper on that one piece, you could see it probably wasn't a heavy board of any kind. So yeah, that worked out great.
Well, yeah,
I have several pieces like that, separate pencils and inks pieces.
Yeah, I mean, and he had the integrity to also tell me that. I mean, he could have just easily said, "Yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll do this," but he, you know, he helped educate me in that process too, and he helped educate me about why it wouldn't be good, and he didn't just say no. I mean, he explained it. He went so far beyond that, and you know, it's again, that's, I mean, the common theme of it's the community, and he, you know, he's willing to take the time and talk to you and share that with you. And I mean, and there's a tradesman nature to that. There's a specialness to that craft that he's willing to share what he does. And I think that's really cool.
Totally agree. Totally agree. All right. This is I like this one. I like both the pencil and the ink piece a great deal. I mean, the inks on the right are just striking. In Spidey's costume and Electro there, it's just, you know, I'm or Shocker. I'm sorry, but it's just really, really well done, and the pencils are so tight.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that. I mean, I completely and totally agree. So this is, you know, the pencils are Joe Bennett, and that when he was doing Immortal Hulk and looking at that, and you know, I was seeing some of the work that he was doing and the commissions that he was doing. And, you know, I reached out to Dave of Jade Giant, and, you know, Dave has been and continues to be just such a fantastic person to work with. Hey, Dave, I mean, just absolutely amazing. If you haven't had an opportunity and you're looking for a great rep to work with, talk to Dave. So I spoke to Dave, and I was like, hey, I want Joe to do, you know, a 2-figure, a 3-figure panel. I want, you know, Spider-Man fighting, you know, some of his foes, and you know, in the old school costumes, and you know, and Joe went ahead and pumped this out and did just such a phenomenal job. And I really love the old school approach to it. I mean, I like the older costumes. Like I said, 80s and 90s are always going to be, you know, where I'm kind of stuck. And you know, he's got the battle damage flare in there on top of it. So I got those pencils from Joe, and they're just, the detail is just amazing. It's just fantastic to look at. And then what you're seeing there on the right this is what Mark Morales did with it. He went ahead, and this is again inked blue lines, and he went ahead and he brought his own complete and total flair to it, and it's just incredible to look at. The detail is amazing. The brushwork on the inking, and you know, when you get down into, you know, Shocker's costume there with the quilting of that, and the leather vest and everything, and it looks so real in terms of the detail that he put into it. It's just absolutely fantastic. And as much as I love this one, it leads into the second one. If we can jump over to that.
Yes. All right, let me pull that one up. Here we go.
So where this one came from, though, is, you know, I was sitting with and sorry to bring his name up again, but sitting with Chris Snork, talking about that commission, and you know, I was looking at it and I go, gosh, I don't remember which one of us had the idea, but one of us said, wouldn't it be cool if it was the whole Sinister Six? And then we were talking about, okay, which version of the Sinister Six do you want? I mean, what would it be like? And you know, I was like, you know, I bet you there's no way that he would go ahead and extend that previous piece into the 6 panels. And I reached out to Dave and on Jade Giant, and he was like, let me talk to Joe. I think it's a great idea. Let's go ahead and put it together. Let's figure out what that would look like. And Joe came back and he was like, you know, I don't have the original first panel with me. It wouldn't be up to my expectations in terms of making the other 2 panels match that. Would you be willing to do a brand new commission? And I was like, I don't know. The first one is so amazing. Yes, please, absolutely do that. And so he came up with this. And yes, full disclosure, I mean, this is my version of the Sinister Six. Craven's not in there. You know, this is a collection of some of my favorite Spider-Man villains that you're looking at there. But the detail on this is just absolutely amazing. I mean, Spider-Man smashing Mysterio's head down into there, you know, Shocker punching through a chimney while Doc Ock is coming, and, you know, Electro throwing lightning, the Vulture, Sandman. And this was just so amazing. And this is what happens when you work with an artist and a rep, and you're like, hey, what about this? Could we do something like this? And when you work with, such a talented artist and such a great rep as, Dave from J Giant, and an artist like Joe Bennett, this is the result. And I'm just completely, totally, absolutely floored by this. And this is, however, I'm having the boards inked, and Mark Morales is inking this, and he has sent me a couple of prelims of it, and I can tell you that it is absolutely spectacular.
Well, once again, I think Mark's going to be getting a lot of work from this. When do you think you're going to be able to? Does he have an ETA on when he thinks he might be able to get the inking work done?
So he's shared with me that he's doing it in between. He's got his regular the books that he's working on. So he hasn't given me a date yet. But he's already sent me 3. He sent me a picture of Electro. He sent me a picture of Spider-Man with most of Doc Ock's tentacle that's cutting across there in the middle, and then also of Sandman. And they are just spectacular. So I'm hoping soon, but I have, he's going to be at Heroes, and so I'm definitely going to be geeking out at his table. But as soon as I've got that, I'll go ahead and post that on CAF as well. As a matter of fact, I could probably start to post some of the prelims that I'm getting.
Oh yeah, Sarah mentions Morales. Following them on Instagram, he posts a lot of the inking work there. That's I do not follow them on there. I should do that. Well, this is a great piece. Obviously, I mean it's going to look amazing. I'm sure once it's all finally finished. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I can't wait either.
I'm sure. I mean, but yeah, you should. Now that we've said he's on Instagram, now he's going to be getting a lot more work.
I mean, hey, if it slows down me getting pieces and gets him more exposure, that's fine. I mean, like I said, I truly believe that he's one of the best inkers in the business right now.
I would agree. And so that was let me see that again. I want to pull it up on the screen here. So that is 3 11x17s, right?
Yep.
Man,
I think they're slightly smaller than 11x17s because Joe uses a different size paper, but it's a very minuscule difference. Mm-hmm. I mean, the whole piece in of itself it's huge and it's fantastic. And when I sent it off to get inked, I mean, I will tell you, I was like refreshing that tracking number like every 20 minutes to make sure that it got there safe.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, that I would be very scared about shipping that. But great piece. I can't wait to see how it's turned out. So looking forward to that. Let's see here. Piece by Samney. That's cool.
Yep. And so another thing that I really loved is that, I don't know how prevalent this was many years ago, but, lots of artists are doing drops now, and they'll go, they're saying, hey, I'm going to go ahead and do this at this date, be there, be square. And I've been a really big fan of Samney for some time. I mean, the way that he brings forward so much detail in a minimalistic style, and the way that he brings the contrast of black and white is to me it's just eye popping. And I missed several art drops for Chris, and I still think that's so cool that he makes his art accessible in these smaller pieces so that more people can go ahead and get it. But I finally got an art drop, and this is the piece. And there's just the little details in terms of the fact that he uses the edging for the lack of ink on the edging of the paper for the wall for Spider-Man to be behind. I mean, the way that he does like his spider sense and everything, to me it's very reminiscent of the whole the mindset of like the Picasso's bull, of just go ahead and keep taking away detail until it's at its piece where it's completely understandable and it doesn't need anything more. And I mean, this is just it's only 4x6, but it's just fantastic. And another thing about how cool CAF is, though, when I got this and I posted it on my gallery, I had like 3 or 4 people go, "Oh, you're the one that got this. I was trying to get it too. Congratulations!" And it's just there's more of that. There's that camaraderie on CAF. And so I really like this, and I'm really, really happy too, because I just got on Sam Nee's latest commission list. So looking forward for that, and I'm having him do Spider-Man fighting the Rhino.
Oh, that's going to be pretty cool. Yeah, I've always really appreciated his work, and I know what you mean. Sometimes a lot of creators these days do big art drops, uh, and you get shut out a lot of times. But I think it's great about the community. Back to just what you said there, that people are high fiving you for picking it up, even though they didn't get it. At the
Yep.
end of the day, they probably hope that there'll be another piece, right? So
Yeah, and I mean the drop prior to that, there was one that he did of the classic black suit Spider-Man and everything, and that was the one that I really wanted to get. Someone else got it, and so I was congratulating them too. And it's cool that art's getting out there, and it's getting out there for people to enjoy. And then I love that people share it. I mean, it would be such a shame that was sold and then gone, and someone didn't go ahead and post that in their CAF gallery. So I don't own it, but do I go back and take a look at it often? Yeah, absolutely.
hey, Dwayne says, "Great job, Eric. We'll have to give your wall a closer look next time we're over." That's awesome. Nice to have Dwayne in the audience tonight. But let's see here. We've got a couple color pieces coming
Yep.
up here. There, and and just so everybody knows, Eric chose the order for all of these, so there's got to be a reason for putting these two color pieces together. So we're going to show the first one here.
There is. There's not a lot of color in my collection, but this is another one of those two connections of the themes in terms of the community as well as the patients. So this is Mike McCone, and his watercolors and what he does is, in my opinion, it's hard to explain. I mean, I from doing painting myself in my design career and everything like this, I truly don't understand how he gets colors as vibrant as he does, and as radiant as he does. And here you can see we've got Spider-Man in just red and black, so we can settle that debate with this too. But I wanted to get a McCone for a while, and I wasn't able to get one. And so, I reached out to his rep, Tatiana, and I was like saying, I asked her, I go, hey, I want to make sure I do everything right this next time. Would you be able to, can you make sure that I'm doing it right? And she took the time to write an email to me and say, make sure you're doing these steps, and as long as you're going to do this, you're going to have your best chance. And she didn't have to do that. I mean, these things sell like that. So she took the time to be able to share that. And when I got the piece and I did it, she sends out the confirmation emails. She remembered me, and she was like, "Congratulations! I'm so happy that you got it." And that's a personal touch that you just don't get if you're buying something off of just a website or anything like that. And then on top of it, I've got this just absolutely gorgeous image of Spider-Man. And, Mike McCone is, I think currently he's at the top of his game, and who knows where the ceiling is. And the pieces that he's putting out are just fantastic. But just the colors on this are, you just can't explain how good it actually looks in person. And it's just amazing.
Yeah, it is such a brilliant red used in this. But McCone has been killing these he's done what is it, probably 4 of these art drops since the pandemic, and through Tatiana, and the pieces are all just amazing. I don't know how. I'm like you. I went to art school. I minored in painting. I look at this stuff and I don't know how anybody does it, because it is so hard to get colors like this. But this is a beauty, and Tatiana is a great rep. She's always just like Dave is as well. And and again, I always go back to that. If it weren't for the reps who are, most of these people are, well, not all of them, but many of them are doing it as a full-time job. So they really do take customer service really, like they should, you would expect. And Tatiana's always been great. I've known her for a long time, long before she became a rep. We worked together on Big Wow and some other projects. But yeah, she's fantastic and very, very, very friendly and open, even when she's very busy. But congratulations on this piece, because it is really spectacular. I love it. So why don't we show the other? We'll just go right to the other color piece here.
And so the other color, I mean, this is Paola Rivera, and this is one that I actually I won in a CAF live auction, and I saw this before the auction went live, and I was just completely struck by the detail on this, and I really wanted this piece, and so we're going into the auction, and it's one of those scenarios where, I was talking with Sarah, my wife. I was like, okay, this is where I'm gonna, where I'm gonna feel, my ceiling is. And then in the heat of the moment, we may have gone above the ceiling a little bit. And, but it was so completely and totally worth it, because this, I ended up getting this piece and adding it to my collection. It's another battle damage Spider-Man, but there's so many individual pieces of detail on this that are just so incredible. Like, the fact that Spider-Man has this web shooter, and the fact that he's got the shading on the hand that he does. And I love the story that's being told with this too. I mean, you've got this entire fiery background behind it. You got the spider sense going, but he's bandaged up, but he's still giving the thumbs up and everything. And I mean, that's just so epitomizes that, the Peter Parker Spider-Man that I resonate with. And the fact that it's like, yeah, you know what? I really took it on the chin. Everything's on fire, but we got it done. And yeah, great. I mean, again, and it's another red on black too. So the colors on this also are just absolutely fantastic. And it's Rivera is just an amazing artist. Not super easy to get work from. And this one just it just checked so many boxes for me. I was just really excited to add this. So, it's two color pieces that I wanted to kind of put together, because there's so many similarities in terms of what they do, and yet they're so distinctly different. And, getting into some more of those color pieces really helps expand, what my collection looks like. And it brings a different quality to the pieces. And it's something that I'm starting to get more and more into as well. It all started in the beginning. I wanted everything to be just black and white. And I'm really kind of starting to branch out.
Well, Apollo is a fantastic painter. I mean, and he's a great guy. If you ever get a chance to meet him, he is super outgoing, and he's just I've been able to hang out with him a lot because of thanks to Mark Hay at San Diego. I've gotten to go out to dinner with Apollo several times, and his father,
cool.
and he's just a really humble guy, and he's an incredible talent. I probably own 6 or 7 pieces by Apollo, just because whenever I see him, he's so friendly. It makes me buy another piece from him. I can't help myself. But yeah, he is he really is a nice guy, and he's a father now, so he doesn't get out to shows as often as I'm sure he would like. But that's why he's participated in the Comic Art Live shows, because it's a good outlet for him and everything. So. Yeah, hopefully he'll be in on the next show. I'm not sure. Mark's actually going to be in Lake Como the week before that. And so he's literally getting back on Friday. So I'm trying to strong arm Mark a little bit to get Paulo to come back to do another one of those sales, and a few of his other guys to do some special stuff. But I don't know how much I'm going to be able to finagle out of him because of Como being the week before, but I'm going to try.
Bill, I've seen the memes. Those arms are big. You can strong arm them.
No. Yeah. We do a lot of CGI on those memes. So just that I did not do the splits last night, or that
not convinced. Not convinced.
we had such a good time with that. My son and I were, he's like, I can do it. I know how I'm going to do it. And then after we did that, that's why I added that karate kick at the beginning, because he's like, Dad, just hold your leg out at like a 30-degree angle. You're gonna kick the ceiling. He's like, I can do it. And I'm like, all right, if you think you can make it look believable, we'll do it. And
well, you had us all fooled, so it looked great.
We're good at that. We're finally getting good enough that I can experiment further on those things. But both of those are fantastic. I mean, kudos to getting those into your collection, and I'm glad that Comic Art Live played a little part in that. But now we've got that piece that you were making the reference to the Thing earlier, I believe. Let's take a look at this one.
Yep. And again, so this piece is, I follow quite a few artists, I think, as many of us do on social media. And this is Mike Manley, and this is one of his cool down. He does those cool down sketches, and he posts them on Twitter. I saw this on Twitter, and immediately, I'm a big Spider-Man fan. My friend Chris is a big Thing fan, and so I was like, I've got to see whether or not he would sell this to me. So I reached out to Mike, and I kind of had to beg him. I asked him if he'd sell it, and he was like, no. And I wrote back to him, and I was like, are you sure you wouldn't sell it? I mean, I kind of explained why I wanted to get it, why I'm a Spider-Man fan, and all of this, and he was like, it's just a cool down sketch. And I go, no, you don't understand. It's the subject matter is so great. It's got that old school vibe to it. I mean, it's got all of those pieces. And then finally, he agreed to it, and he for what he sold it to me for, it was probably just a drop to him and everything like this. But it's just such a cool piece, and it's those experiences of reaching out to the artist and having those direct conversations. And talking to him about it, and it's really, really, yeah. And I love the fact that it's it's kind of tongue in cheek. You've got Spider-Man webbing up the Thing's mouth and everything, and it's just a really, really, this is a very personal piece for me, and I don't care what it's worth. This is one that I'll absolutely never sell.
No, this is a beauty. It really is, and like you said, it's very old school. I liked it for that same reason. Jade Giant wants to know who wins, though.
Who wins? Oh, geez. Well, I think this is probably one of those scenarios where the Thing just can't catch Spider-Man. Spider-Man can't subdue the Thing, so it's going to have to end in a draw.
I was going to say the exact same thing. So, well said. Hey, but here's a good question from Dino. He said, great pieces all tonight, but are you a one and done versus multiple pieces for artists that you collect? I mean, inker, yeah. we already know inker. You've got to go to inker, but as far as pencilers go,
yeah, no, I'm definitely not a one and done. There's a lot of people that I want to get multiple pieces from. Jim Chung is definitely someone I want to get more pieces from. I want to definitely get another Ramos. It's for me, it's going to be kind of about time and opportunity. And then, you hit it in the head, Bill, when you talked about, I'm definitely, I'm a squirrel guy. I'll go ahead and I'll be looking, and I'll be like, okay, I'm going to start saving up for X, Y, or Z. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, look at that. And, if it hits me, I really kind of want to go ahead and collect that. But, no, there's definitely some names that I want to be, getting more pieces from. And I have some. I mean, I have two Bagleys, I've got two Bennett's. I mean, I've got a couple Morales pieces, and but I want to keep. There's a couple artists that I want to go ahead and keep getting more work from, just because I just love what they do, and it's one is never enough.
That is the mantra of the hobby. One is never enough. Yeah, I should put that on a shirt, or I should be, maybe I should trademark that. Before, well, it's probably already trademarked. Somebody's got to have that one by now. But yeah, Jay Giant said squirrel too. I know that. Well, a lot of us are like that too, and I've been really good the last couple of years, because I'm always at my desk, as everybody knows, and so I see every dealer's drop. The moment it happens, because I get the emails immediately, and I check most of them out too. There was Inky Knuckles had a really nice drop, and the other day, and I mean even today, and I get on my road, I'm thinking, but I gotta hold off, I gotta wait. So I keep telling myself it's the move to Florida. Once I get to Florida, I feel like then the purse strings are going to be open again, but not until I get that done, because it's like I know I've got a few things to get done here. So I've been really, really good about that. But I'm forewarning everybody, I'm at my desk 24/7 practically, and you're all in for some trouble from me once I get down to Florida, because I see them all the time. I see stuff that I'm like, I just love that piece, I got to have it, and then I'm like, I pull myself back. It's not, but 6 months from now, that's not going to be the case.
Well, there's times where I purposely have to miss dueling dealers. I have to actively say, nope, not today, because it's this next piece we're going to look at. I mean, this is one of those pieces that, I got it on dealers. If you want to, pull it up.
I'm going to pull it up right here. Yep.
And it's a Sal Buscema. I mean, and up until last night, this was my most recent purchase from dueling dealers. But, this is such another great way to get into the hobby. And, I love Sal Buscema. I love the work that Sal Buscema does. I mean, it's just an amazing tradesman, and the breadth of what this person has created is just completely and totally spectacular. And this came up on dealers, and I was like, yeah, I've got to go for it. I mean, it's Spider-Man, it's Buscema, it's someone, it's one of those names that are on. I think all of the collectors that are out there have their list of their artists that they want to make sure that they collect, and Buscema, Sal Buscema, was definitely on there, and so I got to go ahead and check this off, and I didn't even realize it until I got it into my hands just how much more detail there is there than I had originally seen. And the Dueling Dealers, it gave me an opportunity to actually get a Sal Buscema and the character that that I completely and totally resonate with, and it's just completely and totally fantastic. So it was just fantastic. It was just an awesome experience. So getting art from some of these masters, and there's a limited number out there. There are. I mean, there's a limited number, and so. Now I can say, yep, I've got a Sal Buscema.
And Ruben's letting us know how to pronunciate it, as he does always. I appreciate that, Ruben. Buscema.
Buscema.
I think I'm probably, yes, Buscema.
I'm always up for being corrected so that I can go ahead and pronounce things correctly.
Me too, because I butcher most things.
Same.
But yeah, I'll never be good with names, unfortunately. But good night to what was it? Michael was going. Yeah, got to put the kids to bed. Good night, Michael. Let's see here. Yeah, Sienkiewicz. We got that one. That's I was always like Sienkiewicz when before I became an art collector. I didn't know, and I know I always said it that way, but I don't think I was talking to anybody about it. So nobody knew I was mispronouncing it until I really needed it, and then I was corrected probably the first time I said it.
See, I've got to go with the easy names. Frank Miller. That I know I've got down.
Right. Yeah, Rick Welch says Dave Sim.
Exactly.
You can't get that one wrong. So
Ron Lim.
Rubens has deemed me the butcher of Ohio. I like that. That should be on a T-shirt. I think that's a good one. All right.
Tattoo will read.
What's that?
That's what your tattoo will read.
Oh, the butcher of Ohio. Oh man. Well, no, I can't do that. Maureen would definitely not go for that. I'd have to get a cover-up tattoo of some kind to fix that. But I do like that, Ruben. I've earned that moniker. So all right. Well, why don't we look at the last piece here? It's one that I know we have featured on a CAF update, of course, and it's still one of my favorite pieces in a long while. So it's got to be like that.
I don't know.
What did you think when you saw this piece? Tell me what that experience was like.
So yeah, I mean, I don't see how I can finish with this, and seeing this actually hit the top 5 in terms of best of commissions of 21. I was totally blown away, completely humbled, and honestly, I felt like I didn't belong. I mean, I saw the other pieces, and I saw the people that were in that category and the collectors that were in there, and I definitely felt like the little kid, standing around giants, and it was just such an amazing experience, and really, really, really humbling to just be included in that, and so just absolutely amazing. I loved it. It was definitely one of the highlights of the year for me. But the story behind this piece is really kind of cool too, because this is another CAF connection in the fact that I saw this piece and I absolutely fell in love with it. I didn't own it. I loved it, and I loved it for a bunch of different reasons. I mean, Daniel Warren Johnson is just amazing. The amount of tonal quality in this, the composition that he did with it, it's just so. He's captured so much action in this piece, but then on top of it, he's singled out Spider-Man, and above all of this hustle and bustle of going on, there's Spider-Man by himself. and swinging above all of this, and that is completely and totally not noticed by everyone underneath him. And what a better way of explaining what the experience of being Spider-Man really must be. I mean, all of these people that don't see everything that you're doing, all of the swinging around in the rain, hungry, and not having a dollar in your pocket just to go ahead and be able to kind of help people. It's just this piece connected with me, and I just absolutely loved it. So I reached out to the person who owned it, and it's Josh G on CAF. And if you haven't seen his gallery, holy cow, if you're a Spider-Man fan, check out Josh G's his CAF. It's just absolutely fantastic. And I reached out to him, and I was like, hey, love your gallery, everything's kind of amazing. And we spoke back and forth a few times, and I said, if you're ever willing to part with this piece, let me know. And he said, yeah, no, love it too much, and I'm not looking to part with it. And I was like, yeah, fair enough, I can understand that. Probably about a year later, I reached back out to him, and I was like, hey, still love your gallery, still love everything that you're doing, and our fellow web head, is this something that you'd be willing to part with now? And he said yes. And so we talked about that. We talked about talked about it trading hands, and he let it go, and it's now found its way into my collection. And I just absolutely love everything about this piece. And who knows when Daniel is going to be taking another commission list. Who knows what that's going to look like? I mean, he's just doing such amazing work, and he's now a father, and so he's going to be really busy. So this piece here is definitely one of the gems in my collection, and kind of the bellwether that I like to hold up against in terms of, as I'm adding to it, where does it sit against this piece? How does that look? And Dino, from your earlier question, I will get as much Daniel Warren Johnson as I can get my hands on.
Yeah, no, this is it's just such a Daniel Warren Johnson has just done some amazing commissions. I mean, hasn't he? I mean, this one was probably one of the best, but there's just so many great examples out there that Galactus and Silver Surfer. I mean, you could just do a search on CAF, but this was one of the pieces that, I mean, just demanded your attention, because you're so drawn into just the landscape, the cityscape of everything about it, and then you see Spider-Man, and that's what's so special about his pieces are. He puts so much emphasis on not just the character, but their surroundings. And, I think we've probably featured more Daniel Warren Johnson work in the last year than any creator, which is odd to say that. But I mean, he's just got such a unique eye and a way of seeing the world that I really sincerely appreciate it. Incredible. I mean, I just can't. Yeah, he's just an artist that I've always been kind of stupefied by. He just sees the world in a different way, and I mean, I think that's what we appreciate about most artists: the way they approach a character, or the way they approach their sequential work. Those are the things that really draw us to them. But Daniel Warren Johnson is definitely a very unique talent, and I mean, congratulations for working it out. And like Khalil said, sometimes it never hurts to ask.
Yep.
Right? And you never know when a piece might be able to work its way out of somebody else's collection and make its way to yours, even commissions.
Yeah. And Daniel Warren Johnson is just, there's artists are known for, some of them are known for their line quality, some of them are known for their anatomy, some of them are known for their, their how dynamic they are. To me, Daniel Warren Johnson is a storyteller. And every one of his pieces is it has such a rich story behind what he's showing there. And he welcomes you into his art and lets you kind of walk around into it and really kind of experience it. And, it's that is one of those pieces that, ever since I've got it, there is not a week that has gone by that I don't spend 10-15 minutes, sometimes closer to a half an hour. I'm just kind of staring at it too, because he's also just so talented in his craft and the way that he's executed it and the layering on it. And, that's one of those things too, that, it's right now currently getting ready to be framed. And that's going to be something that is going to be put in a place that I will guarantee to see it on a daily basis. It's just an amazing piece.
What's the size on it?
It's roughly, I think I want to say like 14 by 10.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
I never,
it's larger. It's larger than I had expected it to be.
I was thinking it was going to be, closer to like an 8 by 10, because I don't know why I thought that that was the standard size, but that's even better.
Yeah.
we all like big art, and that one, while it would probably look great even at 6 by 9 or something around that size, at 11 by 14 you can really appreciate it. So I get it why you would stare at it
Yeah.
numerous times. I mean, you have to. Sorry, I'm just reading through the chat here. But Eric, we've actually hit the 2 hour mark. Time flies. You see, it's like I'm always surprised. I look up and I'm like, man, I can't believe it already got to 2 hours. But I love getting the chance to talk to collectors, and I've seen your collection for a while. I've appreciated the fact that you've been in so many of the chats, that you've supported dueling dealers, and I'm glad that we were able to kind of work out a time here where you were able to be able to work out, get on the show, hang out with me, and give everybody else a chance to get to meet you in person before we actually get to meet you in person at Heroes. Because I think the majority, I'm not going to say the majority of the people in the audience are going to be there, but many of the names, Jay Giant's going to be there, Khalil, Ruben, you should come down. I mean, why not? We would welcome you with open arms if you would be willing to come down to the show.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I'd love to get the chance to meet Ruben. And so yeah, it's going to be great. So again, thank you for doing this as always.
Are you kidding me? Thank you for having me. I mean, this was I just, again, I mean, so honored to be asked to come. And what you've done, Bill, and what you continue to do is just so foundational for the hobby, and for people like me that, I'm in the chat and everything like this, but I'm in the chat with like super serious collectors, and I'm trying to, I'm growing what I'm doing, and I'm part of the hobby, but it's a place where we can all come together and have those conversations. And my collection's a little bit different, and I've got a kind of a little bit different perspective on it, and I collect for different reasons. But I really enjoyed coming on and sharing that with everybody, and really appreciate the opportunity.
No, I mean, it's been a fun chat. I think I always like, all chats are different, and you always get something a little different from each collector that I talk with, because everybody kind of views their collections differently, or they look at artwork differently. But you had a fun kind of take on most of the artwork that you got, and the reasons why, and I appreciate that. And I just saw that Ruben says he's not confident about COVID yet, so we probably won't be seeing him. But that's all right. We'll work it out sometime soon, Ruben. I don't blame you at all. That's why I shied away from the first shows that started up earlier, earlier this year or late last year and whatnot. But it's finally time to get out. But I'm looking forward to getting to meet you in person, Eric, along with everybody else. And it's long overdue after the last 2 years of sharing all this time on live streams and everything. So. Again, if there's ever anything I can do for you, well, wait a minute. We already know you're going to be doing some things for me.
Yep.
You're on my short list, along with JC and a few others who I'll be looking for advice and some support from. Just looking over my shoulder, give me a critical eye. Don't hold anything back. I think that having your opinion on what we're going to be doing in the next few months is really important.
Again, seriously, I'd be more than happy to, being, it would be an opportunity for me to give something back for something that you've put so much into, and that we get so much from. So absolutely. I mean, I'm excited for that. And the other thing that you and I talked about that, I said I was going to be giving you over.
Oh yeah. The icons. Yeah.
Yep. The icons. I will be getting those done for you this weekend, so that you can go ahead and take a look at those. But
okay.
Just got a little bit behind.
No, that's all right. But I can let you know that Maureen is done with her code. So she's got it worked up so it's on the gallery piece page and in the green box everywhere. So we're always, I know, don't sweat it. Don't sweat it. But the code is ready. I was going to put it out there with like the cheesy trophy with the years on it. And I was like, I'm not even going to start it with the wrong graphics. I want to start it with the right graphic.
No, they're almost done, and they'll be ready. So you tell Maureen that I understand, and I appreciate the work that she's done. So I'll keep up my end.
All right. Yeah, I wasn't going to pressure you, not at all. But yeah, no, it'll be cool. Because this is something we've wanted to do for years. So it's not like I feel pressured to get it out there tomorrow. I've been talking about it since I knew we actually had the data 3 best subs ago. And
Yep.
now, so yeah, it can wait another week.
Very
Nobody
cool.
will know that it's there until I tell them about it on the next CAF update. So, but again, Eric, thank you so much. And we're going to be in touch.
Yep.
Probably, like I say, about 30 days, we'll be talking the UX and all those fun things, and
Fantastic.
and maybe a new logo as well to make the old CAF shirt a bit of a classic, but we'll see. So, all right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in tonight. It was a great conversation. Eric's got a great collection. And I did forget to tell everybody, even at the beginning of the interview, that Eric's gallery is linked in the description of the show on YouTube and Facebook. So anybody who's not familiar with Eric's collection, just scroll into the description and hit up his CAF gallery. Leave him some comments tonight. Send him some emails. Tell him which pieces you like. That's always a benefit to anybody who comes on the show and gets to have get their moment in the spotlight. Talking about your collection is that you get a few more views, likes, and thumbs up in your CAF gallery. So get out there and do that tonight before you go to bed, everybody.
Well, it's just cool to meet other people too. And whenever I get a connection from someone else, I go ahead and I check out their gallery, and the community continues to grow. And there's just so much amazing art out there and so many amazing collectors. And so thank you for having me. Thanks everybody for listening to my stories and taking a look at some of the pieces in my gallery.
Yep. And thank you. And before I turn this thing off, Carlos Mo asks, no dueling dealers tomorrow. No, there is no dueling dealers tomorrow because of the winter featured auction going on at Comic Link. We decided to take the night off. We will have that show at 2 p.m. on Saturday afternoon. So if you want to see that show, and I've already heard that Anthony and Sharon have gone off on a tangent. They are doing their own thing. They're dressing up as 2 characters, and they didn't even tell Mike and I about it. So I'm like, well, I can't do anything on that short notice, but so it should be very interesting. I can't imagine how it's going to turn out because Anthony does not dress up too often, but
he dresses down quite often.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the man he lives in his pajama bottoms. So yeah, so and he'll probably have pajama bottoms on with this outfit he's going to be wearing on Saturday. But you should tune in even if it's just for the first 5 minutes to see what he's wearing.
It'll be worth it.
Yes, it will. So thanks again, Eric, and thanks everybody. We're great chat, and I'll see everybody on Thursday with my CAF update.
Thanks, Bill.